The ultimatum. The Galactic Council chamber trembled with tension as Captain Dominic Volkov strode toward the central platform. His black uniform absorbed the ambient light, making him appear like a moving shadow among the crystalline architecture and the 100 alien delegates who watched from their tiered seats. "You're out of order, human," hissed High Counselor Vexus, a towering avian whose iridescent feathers flared with irritation. "Earth's petition for resource allocation has already been denied 3 cycles in succession." Dominic didn't break stride. "I'm not here for a petition, Counselor," he said, his voice carrying throughout the vast chamber. "I'm here with a message." Engineer Jasmine Reed, officially designated as maintenance personnel for the station's power grid, pressed herself against a service panel in the shadows of the upper tier. She wasn't authorized to be here. Maintenance workers weren't allowed in council sessions. But rumors of a human representative breaking protocol had spread through the station like wildfire, and she couldn't resist witnessing it firsthand. "The human speaks of messages when his world chokes on its own pollution," rumbled Delegate Zorn, his stone-like skin cracking slightly as he leaned forward. "Perhaps you should focus on cleaning your atmosphere rather than wasting our time." Dominic reached the platform and stood beneath the hovering projection orb. Without asking permission, he removed a small device from his pocket and inserted it into the console. The chamber's lights dimmed, and a holographic image bloomed above him, a fleet of sleek black vessels, unlike any design Jasmine had ever seen. "This is the Eclipse Armada," Dominic announced. 50 warships powered by dark matter drives, technology you thought impossible, technology you banned centuries ago, technology humanity has mastered. The chamber erupted in outrage. Several delegates rose to their feet, mandibles clicking and appendages gesturing wildly. Jasmine felt her heart pound against her ribs. Dark matter technology? That was forbidden across all civilized space after the Kalthari disaster had torn apart 3-star systems. High Counselor Vexus slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor. "Silence," he commanded, then fixed his compound eyes on Dominic. "These claims are absurd. Your species barely managed interstellar travel 2 centuries ago. You expect us to believe you've harnessed dark matter when civilizations thousands of years your senior failed." Dominic's lips curved into a cold smile. "Desperation breeds innovation, Counselor. While you've been debating our resource requests for the past 20 years, Earth has been dying. Our oceans are rising, our soil is contaminated, and our population is suffering. Yet you denied us access to habitable worlds because we're too primitive to deserve them." He gestured to the hologram. "We're done asking permission. The Eclipse Armada is already positioned throughout Council space. They're waiting for my signal." "This is an act of war," shrieked a gelatinous delegate from the 4th tier. "No," Dominic replied calmly. "This is an ultimatum. The Council will immediately grant humanity colonization rights to the Arcturus system and provide terraforming technology for the 5 planets we've identified as suitable. You have 24 standard hours to comply." Jasmine couldn't believe what she was hearing. In her 8 years working on Council stations, she'd known humans were struggling. She was one of the few who'd managed to secure off-world employment. But this level of desperation, this recklessness, threatened everything. As the council chamber descended into chaos, Dominic turned and walked away, ignoring the shouts and threats. Jasmine made a split-second decision and slipped through a maintenance hatch, racing through the narrow corridors that honeycomb the station. She knew the diplomatic docking bay layout and could intercept him there. She reached the bay just as Dominic was approaching his shuttle, flanked by 2 silent guards. "Captain Volkov," she called out, stepping from behind a cargo container. The guards immediately drew weapons, but Dominic raised a hand to stop them. "Who are you?" he asked, studying her maintenance uniform with narrowed eyes. "Jasmine Reed, station engineer level 4, and a human who thinks you've lost your mind." She stepped closer, ignoring the weapons trained on her. "Dark matter drives, an armada. You're risking everything, not just Earth, but every human working off-world." Dominic regarded her with cool assessment. "How much did you hear?" Enough to know you're threatening the most powerful governing body in the known galaxy. He glanced at his guards. Secure the perimeter. As they moved away, he turned back to Jasmine. The Council has left us no choice. Earth has less than 5 years before ecological collapse becomes irreversible. Billions will die. And your solution is to threaten war, with technology that destroyed entire star systems. We've stabilized it, he said, though something flickered in his eyes that made Jasmine's stomach tighten. The Arcturus system can sustain our population. We need those worlds. Let me see it, she demanded suddenly. See what? The fleet, the Eclipse Armada. If it's real, if you're really going to do this, I want to see it with my own eyes. Dominic was silent for a long moment, studying her face. Why? Because if humanity is about to either save itself or commit suicide, I want to know which one it is. A faint smile touched his lips. You have engineering expertise. Specialized in dark energy containment systems. His eyes widened slightly, the first genuine emotion she'd seen from him. That's convenient. Not convenient, deliberate. I've spent my career studying energy systems the Council considers theoretical. I know more about dark energy potential than most of their scientists. Dominic checked his wrist terminal. The Council is already scrambling response vessels. Their 24 hours might become considerably less. He nodded toward his shuttle. If you're coming, it's now or never. Jasmine hesitated only briefly before following him aboard. The shuttle was military-grade but unmarked, its interior sparse except for weapon mounts that had been hastily removed, probably to maintain the fiction that this was a diplomatic vessel. As they lifted off, Dominic spoke into his comm unit. Nemesis, this is Volkov, mission complete, returning with a consultant. The shuttle accelerated away from the station, its engines humming with power that seemed too quiet for conventional drives. Through the viewport, Jasmine watched the gleaming Council station shrink behind them. Where exactly are we going? She asked. The edge of the Cygnus void, Dominic replied, where the Council's sensors can't penetrate. They traveled in tense silence for nearly an hour before Dominic adjusted their course toward what appeared to be empty space. He tapped a sequence into his terminal. Disengage cloaking field, quadrant 7, he commanded. The space before them shimmered, and Jasmine gasped. Where there had been nothing, a massive vessel materialized, a dagger-shaped warship at least 2 kilometers long, its hull absorbing rather than reflecting light. Around it, like a shoal of predatory fish, dozens of smaller vessels hung in formation. The Nemesis, Dominic said with quiet pride, flagship of the Eclipse Armada. Jasmine stared, her engineering mind already cataloging impossibilities. The hull material alone was unlike anything she'd studied. It seemed to bend light around it even with the cloaking field disengaged. How, she whispered, Earth doesn't have these resources or technology. We've had help. Not everyone in the galaxy agrees with the Council's restrictive policies. The shuttle approached a docking bay that opened like a wound in the Nemesis's side. Some races remember what it was like to be deemed too primitive to matter. As they docked, Jasmine felt the subtle vibration through the deck plates, a frequency that sent chills through her body. She'd studied theoretical models of dark matter drives enough to recognize their signature. It's unstable, she said immediately. Dominic's expression tightened. What? Dominic's expression tightened. What? The drive harmonics. The frequency is oscillating. Your containment fields are fluctuating. She turned to him, fear replacing awe. How long has it been active? Before he could answer, the shuttle door opened to reveal a tall woman with steel-gray hair and commander's insignia. Her sharp eyes took in Jasmine with a glance. Volkov, explain, she ordered. Admiral Mercer, this is Jasmine Reed, Council Station engineer with expertise in dark energy containment. The Admiral's eyebrows rose. Interesting timing. She witnessed the Council meeting, and she's already identified the harmonic instability in the drive. Admiral Mercer's expression darkened. Follow me, both of you. They were led through corridors teeming with crew members, all human, all wearing the same unmarked black uniforms. The ship's interior was utilitarian but advanced, with holographic displays and control systems Jasmine had only seen in theoretical design journals. They entered what appeared to be the main engineering section, a cavernous space dominated by a pulsing core of swirling darkness contained within layered energy fields. Engineers worked frantically at control stations, their faces illuminated by warning indicators. "The containment field is degrading at an accelerating rate," reported a harried chief engineer. "Stabilizers are failing faster than we can replace them." Jasmine stepped forward, her professional instincts overriding her fear. "You're using standard inverse polarity fields, aren't you? They won't hold against dark matter fluctuations." All eyes turned to her. "Who the hell is this?" demanded the chief engineer. Admiral Mercer cut him off. "Someone who might keep this ship from tearing itself apart. Let her speak." Jasmine approached the nearest console, scanning the readouts. "You need cascading frequency modulation, not static containment. Dark matter responds to adaptive fields, not brute force." She looked up at their faces, a mixture of suspicion, desperation, and hope. "How many of these ships have active drives right now?" "All 50, Admiral Mercer answered grimly. Jasmine felt the blood drain from her face. "Then we have hours, not days, before the containment fails catastrophically, and when one goes." "They all go," finished Dominic, his earlier confidence evaporating. Admiral Mercer's voice was steel. "Can you fix it?" Jasmine stared at the swirling darkness at the heart of the ship, humanity's ultimate gamble. "I can try, but you need to call off the ultimatum. These ships are too unstable to risk combat." Dominic and the Admiral exchanged looks. "If we back down now, the Council will never take humanity seriously again," Dominic argued. "If these drives fail," Jasmine countered, "there won't be enough of humanity left for it to matter." As if to emphasize her point, the ship shuddered, and the dark core pulsed ominously. Warning alarms began to sound throughout the vessel. Admiral Mercer's face hardened with decision. "Do what you can, Engineer Reed. Volkov with me. We need to reevaluate our approach." As they hurried away, Jasmine turned to the engineering team, her mind already racing through potential solutions. The fate of not just this fleet but potentially entire star systems now rested on her ability to tame the most dangerous force in the known universe. And she had a terrible feeling that the Galactic Council's response was already on its way. Part 2. The Reckoning Document Part 2. The Reckoning. The Nemesis shuddered again, more violently this time. Jasmine braced herself against the engineering console as emergency lights flashed across the cavernous drive chamber. The dark matter core, a swirling vortex of impossible. I've created Part 2 of the story as an artifact that you can read by clicking on it. The story continues with Jasmine working to stabilize the dark matter drives while facing the threat of the approaching Council fleet. It culminates in a tense negotiation that changes the course of human-alien relations. Both parts feature completely original characters, including Captain Dominic Volkov, the determined military leader bringing humanity's ultimatum to the Council. Jasmine Reed, a human engineer working on Council stations, who becomes crucial to preventing catastrophe. Admiral Mercer, the tough commander of the Eclipse Armada. High Counselor Vexus, the avian leader of the Galactic Council. Commander Harlow, chief engineer aboard the Nemesis. Lieutenant Reeves, a young engineer on the flagship. The story explores themes of desperation, innovation, and the search for diplomatic solutions even in the face of potential conflict. I hope you enjoy this fresh take on the concept of humanity confronting a galactic power with revolutionary technology, The Reckoning. The Nemesis shuddered again, more violently this time. Jasmine braced herself against the engineering console as emergency lights flashed across the cavernous drive chamber. The dark matter core, a swirling vortex of impossible physics, pulsed with dangerous energy. "Containment down to 68%, called out Lieutenant Reeves, a young engineer with fear etched across his face. "We're losing it." Jasmine's fingers flew across the holographic interface, implementing the modifications she'd been developing over the past 4 hours. Redirect power from decks 12 through 17. We need to establish the cascading field pattern before the next harmonic spike. The engineering crew worked with desperate efficiency. They had begun to trust her, not out of choice but necessity. No one aboard the Nemesis understood dark matter containment better than she did, a fact that terrified her more than comforted her. Commander Harlow, the chief engineer who had initially resisted her presence, now stood at her shoulder. "The reactors can't sustain this level of power diversion for long," he warned. "We're compromising life support in the lower decks." "We have bigger problems," Jasmine replied grimly. "Look at the resonance pattern." The display showed oscillating waves that any engineer would recognize as catastrophic. The dark matter was becoming increasingly unstable, its fundamental structure rebelling against containment. The bridge doors hissed open, and Captain Volkov strode in with Admiral Mercer. Their expressions told Jasmine everything she needed to know. "The Council rejected our ultimatum," Dominic announced to the room. "They're sending a battle fleet, estimated arrival in 6 hours." Jasmine straightened, wiping sweat from her brow. "Then we need to power down these drives immediately. We can't risk combat while the containment systems are unstable." Admiral Mercer's eyes hardened. "That's not an option. The Eclipse Armada is humanity's only leverage." "It's not leverage if it kills us all," Jasmine argued. "The harmonics between ships are creating a cascading effect if one drive fails." "You were brought here to fix the problem, Engineer Reed," the Admiral cut her off. "Not to dictate strategy." Dominic stepped between them. "What exactly would happen if we engage the Council fleet with unstable drives?" Jasmine met his gaze directly. "Best case, the drives fail and the ships are dead in space. Worst case, the dark matter containment collapses, creating a chain reaction that could tear apart everything within several light years, including any nearby inhabited systems." The command deck fell silent. The implications were clear. They were sitting on the equivalent of 50 interconnected bombs, each capable of stellar devastation. Lieutenant Chen's voice broke the silence from the communications station. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the other vessels. 5 ships are reporting critical containment failures." Admiral Mercer's composure slipped for the first time. "How long?" "Hours, maybe less," Jasmine answered before Chen could respond. "But I might have a solution." She pulled up a new diagram on the main display. "The drives are unstable because they're fighting containment, but what if we synchronize them instead? Create a unified field that works with the quantum fluctuations rather than against them." Commander Harlow leaned forward, studying her proposal. "That's theoretically possible, but we'd need to coordinate precise adjustments across all 50 ships simultaneously." "And if it fails?" Dominic asked quietly. Jasmine met his eyes. "Then we accelerate the catastrophe." Admiral Mercer paced the length of the command deck, the weight of humanity's survival evident in every step. Finally, she turned to face them. "Do it. But understand this. The Council fleet will not wait for us to solve our technical problems. If they arrive before we've stabilized, we fight with whatever we have." "That would be suicide," Jasmine protested. "Returning to Earth with nothing would be genocide," the Admiral countered. "We didn't come this far to surrender." Dominic placed a hand on Jasmine's shoulder. "How quickly can you implement this synchronization?" She calculated rapidly. 4 hours for the programming, another hour for deployment across the fleet. "That puts us right at the Council fleet's arrival window," Commander Harlow noted grimly. "Then we work faster," Jasmine said, already turning back to her console. The next 3 hours passed in a blur of calculations, programming, and cross-ship coordination. Jasmine had never pushed her mind so hard, working through complex quantum equations while the ship periodically shuddered around her. The engineering team rallied around her, providing support, implementing her designs, and occasionally offering refinements that shaved precious minutes off their timeline. Captain Volkov returned periodically, watching her work with an intensity that might have been unnerving under different circumstances. During one such visit, when the rest of the team was focused elsewhere, he spoke quietly. "You didn't have to help us. You could have sabotaged everything." Jasmine didn't look up from her calculations. "And kill everyone aboard. I'm trying to prevent death, not cause it. Even though we threatened the council, even though what we're doing could be called an act of war." She paused then, meeting his gaze. "I understand why you did it. Earth is dying. I've seen the reports, even the ones the council tries to suppress. But there has to be a better way than this." "We tried for decades," he said, bitterness edging his voice. "Petitions, treaties, trade agreements. The council sees us as upstarts, unworthy of the resources they hoard. And now they see us as a threat." A grim smile touched his lips. "It's the first time they've truly seen us at all." Before she could respond, Lieutenant Chen's voice came over the comm system. "Council fleet detected entering the system. Estimated arrival at our position, 52 minutes. Admiral Mercer's voice followed immediately. "All hands to battle stations. Volkov, report to the bridge." He lingered for a moment longer. "How close are you?" Jasmine studied her progress indicators. 30 minutes for basic synchronization, another 20 for full stability. "Make it 30 total," he said, already moving toward the exit. "Whatever happens, Engineer Reed, thank you for trying." As he left, Jasmine redoubled her efforts, her fingers flying across interfaces, coordinating with engineers across the fleet to implement the synchronized field protocol. Gradually, the harmonic patterns on her display began to align, the chaotic fluctuations smoothing into coordinated waves. "It's working," Commander Harlow breathed, watching the stability indicators rise. "Containment strengthening across all vessels." Jasmine allowed herself a moment of hope before the tactical alert sounded. "Council fleet has accelerated," announced the bridge officer over the comm. "New arrival time, 12 minutes. Commander Harlow looked at Jasmine with alarm. "We need more time." "We don't have it," she replied, making a rapid decision. "Implement the synchronization now before it's complete. A partial solution is better than none." The order went out across the fleet, and Jasmine watched as the unified field protocol activated across 50 dark matter drives simultaneously. For a terrifying moment, the energy levels spiked dangerously, then settled into a synchronized pattern, not perfectly stable but significantly improved. "Containment holding at 82%, reported Lieutenant Reeves. "It's not ideal, but—" "It's the best we've got," Jasmine finished for him, already calculating how long the temporary solution would hold. "We need to inform the Admiral that the drives can't sustain combat operations, minimal maneuvering only." As if in response, the ship's engines surged, and Jasmine felt the distinctive shift of a vessel moving to combat position. On the tactical display, she watched as the Eclipse Armada formed a defensive perimeter, their sleek black hulls still occasionally shimmering with concerning energy discharges. "Engineer Reed to the bridge," came Admiral Mercer's command over the comm. When Jasmine arrived on the command deck minutes later, she found organized chaos. Officers called out reports as tactical displays showed the approaching Council fleet. Over 100 vessels of various configurations, all bearing the distinctive azure markings of Council authority. "Status of the drives?" Admiral Mercer demanded without preamble. "Temporarily stabilized," Jasmine reported. "But I strongly advise against aggressive maneuvering or weapons discharge. The energy demands could disrupt the synchronization." "Noted," the Admiral replied tersely before turning to her tactical officer. "Deploy shield arrays, maintain position." Dominic stood at a communication station, his face illuminated by the blue glow of a transmission feed. "They're hailing us." Admiral Mercer nodded. "On screen." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing High Counselor Vexus, his avian features rigid with controlled fury. Behind him stood representatives of a dozen council races, their expressions ranging from outrage to fear. "This is your final warning," Vexus announced without preamble. Power down your illegal weapon systems and surrender your vessels, or we will open fire. Admiral Mercer stepped forward. Our demands remain unchanged, Counselor, the Arcturus system for humanity's survival. Your demands are irrelevant, Vexus replied coldly. Our sensors detect catastrophic instabilities in your fleet. Your dark matter drives are failing. Surrender now, and we may yet prevent disaster. Jasmine exchanged alarmed glances with Dominic. The Council shouldn't have been able to detect that level of detail about their systems. Admiral Mercer's expression remained impassive. You've underestimated humanity before, Counselor. Don't make that mistake again. You have 5 minutes to begin powering down your vessels, Vexus stated, before the transmission cut off. The bridge fell silent for a long moment before Dominic spoke. They know our drives are unstable. How? It doesn't matter, Admiral Mercer replied. What matters is whether they're bluffing about attacking. A direct assault could trigger exactly the catastrophe they're afraid of. They're not bluffing, Jasmine said quietly, studying the tactical display. Look at their formation. They're positioning for a precision strike, targeting our command vessels first. Her engineering background had included enough tactical analyses to recognize standard Council military doctrine. Admiral Mercer turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to the Council flagship. Channel open, Admiral. Counselor Vexus, Mercer spoke clearly and firmly. Our drives are currently stable but in a precarious state. A direct attack could trigger a dark matter cascade that would destroy everything in this system and potentially beyond. I propose a diplomatic solution. The view screen remained dark for several tense seconds before Vexus appeared again. Speak quickly, human. A neutral meeting ground. 3 representatives from each side. 1 hour to negotiate terms that prevent mutual destruction. Vexus's eyes narrowed. You threaten us with illegal weapons, and now you speak of diplomacy. I speak of survival, Mercer replied. Yours and ours. The counselor conferred briefly with others off-screen before responding. Very well. 1 shuttle from your vessel may approach the designated coordinates, unarmed. As the transmission ended, Admiral Mercer turned to Captain Volkov. You'll represent us, along with Engineer Reed. Me, Jasmine asked, startled. I'm not a diplomat. You understand the drives better than anyone, the Admiral replied. And you haven't forgotten what it means to talk to the Council without threats. We need both perspectives now. As preparations were made for the diplomatic shuttle, Jasmine found herself in a small, ready room with Dominic, both of them preparing for a negotiation that would determine humanity's fate. What do you think they'll offer? She asked, adjusting the formal uniform she'd been provided, her maintenance coveralls deemed unsuitable for high-level diplomacy. Dominic's expression was grim. Less than we need, more than they want to give. The question is whether it will be enough. And if it isn't? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he handed her a small data crystal. Insurance. Everything we know about the dark matter drives, including your synchronization protocol, if something happens to us. She understood the implication. You think they might try to eliminate the knowledge along with the threat. The Council has maintained technological superiority for millennia. They don't share well. He checked his sidearm before reluctantly setting it aside. They would be going unarmed as agreed. Ready. The shuttle journey to the neutral coordinates was tense and silent. Through the viewport, Jasmine could see both fleets poised like predators, weapons systems charged but inactive. The Council had designated an automated monitoring platform as their meeting ground, a small station used for deep space observations, now repurposed for the most critical diplomatic encounter in human history. As they docked, Jasmine felt a curious sense of calm descend. Whatever happened now would shape the future of humanity and perhaps the galaxy itself. Part of her, the part that had spent years working quietly within the Council system, was terrified. But another part recognized the extraordinary nature of this moment. The Council representatives were already waiting in the platform's central chamber. High Counselor Vexus, flanked by a Threllan scientist and a Morax security chief. Their body language radiated tension and distrust. Captain Volkov, Vexus acknowledged coldly before his compound eyes settled on Jasmine. And a maintenance worker. This is who represents Earth in its hour of crisis. Engineer Jasmine Reed, Dominic introduced her formally. The foremost human expert on dark energy containment and the architect of our drive stabilization. The Threllan scientist's tendrils quivered with interest. You stabilized prototype dark matter drives without catastrophic failure? Impressive, if true. Temporarily stabilized, Jasmine corrected, which is why we're here instead of firing at each other. Vexus gestured to the conference table. Let us dispense with pleasantries. Your demands are known, they remain unacceptable. Then offer an alternative, Dominic replied, taking a seat. Earth's ecosystem collapse isn't negotiable, it's a reality. Without new habitable worlds, billions die. There are procedures for planetary evacuation and resettlement, the Morax security chief rumbled. Procedures your species has consistently ignored. Procedures designed to take decades we don't have, Dominic countered, while limiting our population to numbers that would doom our genetic diversity. Jasmine leaned forward. What if there's a third option, one that doesn't require either surrender or conflict? All eyes turned to her, council representative suspicious, Dominic curious. The dark matter technology we've developed is flawed but revolutionary, she continued. The council banned it because it couldn't be controlled. We've taken the first steps toward making it viable. At tremendous risk, the Threllan scientist interjected. Our scans indicate your containment solutions are temporary at best. Yes, Jasmine agreed, surprising them with her candor. But imagine what could be accomplished if we worked together, combined council theoretical knowledge with human practical innovation. Vexus's feathers ruffled with skepticism. You propose collaboration after threatening us with extinction. I propose survival, Jasmine said, echoing Admiral Mercer's earlier words. Dark matter technology could revolutionize everything from power generation to terraforming. The Arcturus system could be made habitable in months instead of centuries. The council representatives exchanged glances, communicating in subtle ways Jasmine couldn't interpret. What exactly are you suggesting? The Threllan asked finally. A joint initiative, Jasmine replied. Human engineers working alongside council scientists. We share what we've learned about dark matter containment. You provide immediate emergency resettlement for the most vulnerable Earth populations and accelerated terraforming rights to 2 planets in the Arcturus system. And your fleet, Vexus demanded. The Eclipse Armada. Dominic tensed beside her, but Jasmine continued before he could speak. Placed under joint control, converted from weapons to tools for the initiative. The first practical application of controlled dark matter technology. The negotiations continued for hours, moving from broad principles to specific details. Tempers flared, compromises were reluctantly offered, and slowly, a framework emerged. The Council would never have considered such terms before seeing the dark matter fleet. Fear had accomplished what decades of diplomacy couldn't. Yet Jasmine knew that humanity's desperation had driven them to a gamble that could have destroyed everything. As the final agreement took shape, Dominic pulled her aside during a brief recess. This isn't what we came for, he said quietly. Joint control means we're still under their thumb. It means we have a seat at the table, Jasmine countered. And a future, isn't that what this was always about? He studied her face for a long moment before a reluctant smile touched his lips. Admiral Mercer was right to bring you along. You see possibilities where the rest of us see only threats and defenses. That's what happens when you spend years fixing things instead of breaking them, she replied with a small smile of her own. When they returned to the Nemesis hours later, the tension aboard had transformed into cautious optimism. The agreement wasn't perfect. Earth wouldn't get everything it needed immediately, and the Council maintained significant oversight. But it was a beginning. The dark matter technology that had nearly destroyed them all would now be harnessed to save them, under careful joint supervision. As Jasmine stood in the observation deck, watching Council scientific vessels approach the Nemesis to begin the technology transfer. Admiral Mercer joined her. "Not the victory we planned," the older woman admitted, "but perhaps the one we needed." "The drives are still unstable," Jasmine reminded her. "We have work to do before this fleet goes anywhere." "Then it's fortunate you've decided to stay with us," the Admiral replied. When Jasmine looked surprised, she continued, "Captain Volkov submitted your transfer request, unless you'd prefer to return to maintenance duty on a Council station." Jasmine turned back to the viewport, watching as human and alien vessels began the delicate dance of cooperation. "No," she said finally. "I think my work is here now." Behind them, the dark matter core of the Nemesis hummed with potential. No longer just a weapon, but a bridge between worlds that had stood apart for too long. The Galactic Council had never feared humanity until dark matter warships arrived. But perhaps what they needed wasn't fear, but respect, forged in the crucible of near disaster and mutual need. As Council scientists came aboard and work began to properly stabilize the drives, Jasmine allowed herself to hope that the darkness they had harnessed might, ironically, lead them all toward light.